Casually is the best I've got for you. Yeah, not here, and not
The Bob Barker microphone.
and not here. Please remember to have your pets spayed or neutered. Hello, friends. Welcome back. It is Love Wrestling Interviews. This is the first. I think that this will be the first I release of the new year.
Oh,
Full disclosure, I don't have any more interviews currently lined up, so hoping the DMs are full when I hop off of this one. Jack Pride, the man of two minds. It's good to have you on, friend.
it is good to be here.
It's been quite literally 4 years, about a little more than 4 years since you and I have hopped on and done an interview. The last time
we did one?
The last time we did an interview, and you can probably date me on this one, is I came down. It was right after the PWA anniversary show that like Ricky Steamboat was on.
Yep.
That was where I first like linked up with Kayla J, Envy,
Yep.
KJ Cash.
Yep.
Sorry, Kayla. But that's where I first linked up with her, and that's how I first came down to my first CWC show. And that's where you and I met, and we started to get to know each other, and then we did the interview shortly after that. So that would have been like 4 or 5 years ago, if my math's
that's
right.
Wild.
What's new?
Oh my. Lots of things.
Where do we start? You're brand new, actually, as of 4 days ago, the 2022 Love Pro Wrestling Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah,
That's new.
Yeah, that's new. That was very unexpected. I figured I'd be like maybe top 3 for voting. I really think that spent the whole year as champ, Clandestine Society. I really thought MRB would have finished ahead of me. But I thought the Wrestler of the Year was for sure going to be Son of Irish's spot. Like, the kid can't get a win to save his life on the Love shows, but my God, is he over. But I mean, saying all that, it's pretty cool because like I was talking to somebody like, yeah, but it's just a fan vote. I was like, but we're wrestlers. Like the fans are the ones that matter.
That all that matters.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So that was really cool. I felt, I was really surprised, but in a good way. So like, I tried to, like, I probably could have worked harder last year. Let's be like, I'm being honest, but I put in a lot of work, and I feel like wrestling kind of gave a lot back to me last year. So it was pretty cool.
Well, and like you can dive in as much as you want with it, but like that's a very different pride than when we were texting, sort of this time last year, where we were talking about what you wanted to do in wrestling and sort of where your headspace was at. So like, where were you last January, February? Because we ran our first show in March, and again, you dive in, but like that was going to be one of your last matches. Like you were going to retire, if I remember right.
Yeah,
correct?
that was something that was absolutely on my mind. I had actually a different promotion. We'll leave them out. They reached out to me for February. I think it was like the end of February. I did their Rumble, and I worked a bunch of matches until the Love show at the end of March there, and it was really heavy on my mind. I'd been talking to a friend of mine, former wrestler himself, Maniac. Him and I talk fairly regularly, and like between him and I, we had planned out the potential for like a whole angle. Like I said, it was very in my head, and I was like, okay, if this is how I'm feeling this year, like I'm not just gonna, up and that's it. Like I would want to go out, something I could be happy with. So I was gonna approach you with one of these angles that Maniac and I had put together and be like, hey, I'm really thinking about this. Can we go with this? And then that match against Mo and Larry, like that, I don't know, something about that. And it really was like that match and the backstage at Love that really kind of switched things over for me, because like I remember when we started the match, me, Mo, and Larry, we did a spot to open the match with me and the Lumberjack. We were like, oh my goodness, buddy, and like this big hug. But
we found you. Shout out to like Tales from the Undercard, because this was their thing, but like we paid off at our first show. Like we lost a wrestler story.
Yeah, that was so and Larry was so perfect for that spot too at the time. Like it worked so well. But like that was a real moment for me, just to be back in the ring with somebody that I consider like a good friend in this business. Like speaking of CWC, one of my first like major feuds in probably my second major feud in CWC was with the Lumberjack and over the Alberta title. And like we worked really hard together. So like dude's got a special place in my heart. He always will. So having that moment in the ring to give that big hug in front of the crowd and have them pop for it, that meant a lot to me. And then just how the rest of the match shook out. I could have lost. Like I did go over, pinned Lumberjack with the tights. It was wonderful. I could have been like had the mat, like they could have washed it with me, like could have like easily put anyone over and I would have felt the same way. Felt so good about it, the connection with the audience. And then coming backstage, and I've told you this, like told a lot of people this, CWC for me, it was something real special about that. Like we built that from the ground up and the connection with the audience. And it just something backstage at those shows always felt different. And I'd never felt it until being backstage at Love. And I've told you this before too. For me, Love, it's like CWC grew up. And this is like just the professionalism backstage, the camaraderie backstage, you're never going to escape the drama, but it's got so much more less drama than anywhere else. And yeah, just like that whole amalgamation of that whole night, how everything shook out, like I said, the roster, backstage, the fans, the match, all of it was just like, oh, yeah, this is what I was missing for the last 2 years in COVID. Oh, I don't actually want to retire. I just hadn't found myself. And oh, here I am kind of thing. And yeah, I just completely switch flipped in my head. I'd been working sporadic matches. And after that show, I picked up every date I could after that. So yeah, big shift in things. And it ended up actually being my busiest year. I had most shows booked, most matches wrestled, and most provinces wrestled. It was my biggest year in wrestling.
I was going to say, and we'll talk about that in a second, because for anybody who hadn't listened, subscribe to our Patreon. You can get the first interview I did with this here Jack Pride. And as part of that first chat that we had, we really dove into the CWC. So like, let's not go too heavy into the lore, I suppose, of Alberta wrestling, but we brought him up a couple of times. So what was the CWC? Give not your Cliff Note history, but not the long-winded history.
Basically, CWC there was a handful of guys down in Red Deer, and try as we might, we couldn't really get booked much of anywhere else. No one took us seriously. Certain promotion that's been around kind of like a cockroach for a while, their workers were calling us backyarders, guys that just every opportunity to belittle us, they took. Was
there not wrestling in Red Deer like at all? Or was
no.
Okay.
There was no one was booking Red Deer at the time. CWE might have been trying.
They maybe do like their sporadic once in a while. Or...
Yeah, but like nothing of real meaning, because I've lived in Red Deer my whole life, and it wasn't for a long time that I discovered that indie wrestling even came to town. So yeah, there was no one. And yeah, no one really took us seriously. So we're like, well, we all want to wrestle. We all have the ability to wrestle. We had all received varying levels of training. So let's do what we can, put something together, bring in some veteran level guys from the area, Edmonton or Calgary, bring them in to help bolster us, get things going. And then once the Red Deer crowd connected with us with CWC, and I think the big thing there was CWC treated Red Deer like it was the only stop, because it was, but they treated the fans that way, whereas other promotions come in and it's just another stop on the tour. They don't care. Mm-hmm. So Red Deer attached to CWC in a big way, and we were selling out after like our third show. We were like constant sellouts because we had just connected with the fan. And so there's a real special place for me for that. And without CWC, I wouldn't have been able to reach out to other promotions and be taken seriously, because I had built repertoire and I had built a bit of a name through these Red Deer shows and us doing all the things we were doing. And yeah, it was kind of a passion project for some really passionate wrestlers that just wanted to wrestle. And yeah, without that, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I might not even be wrestling at all at this point if it wasn't for CWC.
Well, and there aren't a ton of people who have done it to this point? I know there are certainly a number, but like you're one of the only people that I do know of, especially recently, that has wrestled quite literally, I think, for every promotion that's come through here, if I remember right. If you list them all in your head, I don't think there's one you've missed.
The only promotion that I've never worked for, period, but also Alberta, is CWE.
Yeah.
I've worked, but I've worked for MPW, I've worked for PPW, CWC, RCW, LPW, LLPW, Lakeland Pro Wrestling.
I remember them out in Bonnyville, right?
Yeah, they did 2 shows.
I remember.
Yeah, fun on both shows.
The Win Column Sports Network back then. Come on.
Yeah. Who else has been through here? Yeah, like basically any promotion that's come through Alberta since 2014, I've been on their shows. Oh, Top Talent is one other one I haven't done, but
yeah. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
I guess, is that like a conscious choice? Is it just like looking for different stuff? Did you intentionally want to work everywhere? Like, what's the sort of mindset there?
Can-Am, that's another one I forgot. I'm working with them. Yeah, it's kind of just so like Lakeland Pro, they reached out to me and were like, and again, I was doing more like CWC was my bread and butter at the time. I was doing RCW at the time also, but yeah, they reached out to me and was like, hey, we don't have a champion. You seem to be very prominent with the Alberta title at this time. Do you want to come in and defend it in our main event? Absolutely. I got no problem doing that. And back then, my intentions were to make that Alberta title the busiest title in Alberta.
Yeah,
I was
almost
defending
like the Alberta IC.
That was my full intention. I had defended it in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg at the time. So like so that mentality was just like work everywhere, work as often as possible. And then that same thing happened this year. If a company hit me up, hey, do you want to come out? Hey, you want a spot? Sure. Yes. But if I have an availability, yes. There's no, some people will say, and it's not a wrong mindset. It's just not for everybody mindset. Some people will say, not all bookings are good bookings, which can be true, but I also personally try and make the most of any booking I'm at. So yes, it might not be a roster filled with the upper echelon of Alberta wrestling. It might be some green guys from the bottom, like a big mix. That's cool. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do Jack Pride stuff. And Jack Pride is going to be the best Jack Pride he can be that night.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach I take wherever I go.
I was going to say it's a bit of give and take, right? Because you certainly want to heed some warnings sometimes. I think we've all learned the hard way.
Absolutely.
As far as that goes. But I don't know if it's the best way to put it, but sometimes you have to find out for yourself if it's a bad booking. Because eyes are eyes, man. And that's really the goal is make money, get eyes on you.
Yeah. And what might be a good booking for one guy will be a bad booking for a different guy or vice versa. So just because somebody, unless you're getting stories from everyone you talk to, this place is going to not be good. This place, then maybe heed that. But if it's one guy, maybe they just had a bad experience. Maybe I'll have a different shake. And sometimes you learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But that's life, right?
You can dip a toe in the water.
Absolutely.
How's it been heading out more out east, out west? You've done BC a couple of times. You've done Winnipeg. I guess Manitoba as a whole. Not every promotion's out of Winnipeg there anymore, if I remember correctly. I've been wrong there.
I think they have Portage La Prairie or Portage. Yeah. But that's real close to Winnipeg anyways. So yeah,
Manitoba's the only province I haven't been to. There's a fun love fact for you and the listening and viewing audience. This is going to be audio and video, by the way.
Oh, tremendous.
Just so you know, so you can listen on your drive time commute. How's it been, though? How have you been enjoying it? How have you been enjoying now providing content for the 14, 16, 20-hour drives?
That is driving out to Winnipeg and driving out to, we did Rutledge and Enderby when I did BC this year. And they say not Rutledge. Rutland.
I was going to say, that's Jason.
Yeah, that's Jason Rutledge. Close enough. Basically the same thing.
Just slide that one and we'll just wait for the comments to come in because Jason's going to listen. He's going to pop for that. I'm excited.
I just, my number one fan on my mind. What can I say?
Oh, we're his number one fan too. Let's not cut corners on that.
Yeah, absolutely. He is one of the greatest appreciated people associated with wrestling that's not a wrestler himself. I love that.
We've
dude.
got such a cool community out here.
Yeah. But yeah, like the killers for those shows is the drives. Like that, if you don't have a quality car full of guys, like I've done the drive to Winnipeg by myself. Don't do that drive by yourself. It's horrible.
Well, I was gonna say, didn't you have a drive out there where you had to end up changing a flat tire on the way back too?
Oh yeah. The first time, Kayla J and I, we drove out there to work for PCW and drove out there. It was fine. Worked the show. We both worked the show. Both matches were good. Jumped in the car to head home and got a flat on the way out of town. And by time the roads out there, like they weren't plowed or anything. It was like not great roads. So I couldn't actually really tell it was flat. I thought, just shitty roads. So the tire was shredded. And then it was like midnight at the time. It's like, well, looks like we got to get a hotel and find a place to change the tire in the morning. So
enjoy Flin Flon.
Yeah, it was.
I also have no idea of the geography of Manitoba. I could be like hundreds of miles away.
No, I have no idea. Wherever Google Maps says to go, that's
artistic
how I get
color.
it.
We'll call it. There you go. Artistic license.
But yeah, that was an experience. I was so mad. But then the tire got fixed. We drove home and it was good. But yeah, I've done that drive solo. Don't do that. Last time it was me, Marz, Thickness, and TJ. And that was tremendous. We had a lot of fun. That made that drive go by a lot easier. I remember the time that I did drive out by myself. It was after the inaugural INDY Dream match.
Holy shit! There's a hashtag we're never bringing back. Oh my god! And I will fully as well cop. Like I helped beat that hashtag. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I was throwing like no one's business. You head to WC Sports CA on Twitter, and Bud, let me tell you what, there were a lot of those.
Yeah,
there were a lot of those. I will not claim innocence. My God.
It started out and it was like, I just want to wrestle MRB. And then that hashtag came out.
Jonah threw it out there first, if I remember.
Yeah, on my old podcast. And it took on a life of its own, and it was cool at first, and then it was like, oh my god, can we just let this go already? And then the next match that was like a big ticket match was like, oh, that's the next Alberta, and then it just turned into this rib backstage for all the workers. Oh, we got another Alberta Indie Dream match coming up, and here's what
I'm sorry.
It's good for because it's hilarious. Like looking, like even at the time, it was never not funny. It was just like at a point, it's just like, but quality.
It was always funny. It did like the perfect jumping of the shark where it was like, okay, this works. And now it's terrible. Yeah. And you know what? It's on the come up.
Came back around.
Is the year of the Alberta Indie Dream match.
Oh, man.
Just wait, like 6 months from now, I'm going to advertise a match as an Alberta Indie Dream match just to pop like literally the two of us. And Jonah, hopefully, too.
Absolutely.
Hopefully there as well, too. Tell me about Two Baked Hams. I'm going to miss it. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, we Jonah and I decided to close the doors on Two Baked Hams. It was probably 3 weeks ish ago. That was before the Christmas breaks. I have no concept of time.
Time's not real. Don't worry.
Yeah, true.
That's a whole other podcast we're gonna have to start on this series, though. Get you, me, and Eli Surge here in a row.
Oh, sign me up. I'm in. But yeah, Two Baked Hams. We were really hitting a stride, and then the pandemic came, and because we did everything live, and we spent a bunch of money on our setup so that we could do live podcasts with microphones, aiming to have just higher quality, because there's a lot of people with podcasts at the time, and some of them were just recording with microphones like in the middle of the room.
Throwing like a recorder on the middle of the table.
Their phone. There's nothing wrong if that's what works for you, but we just wanted a step up in professionalism. But then we're like, well, we spent the money on this. We want to use this stuff. So when the pandemic came, it pretty much shut us down. And then once all the bans got lifted and we could people again, I had been moving, like I was living back in Red Deer, Jonah was in Edmonton, and then jobs, and then gas got expensive, and then it's just all these hurdles to jump through. And yeah, it was unfortunately no longer like time and or cost effective for us. So we decided that we would call her a day. Jonah, he's since started doing a podcast with a different friend of ours where they take what's it called? The Enlightened Dirtbag podcast. They'll read books and then they review the books, and they're working on their second season. They have like a theme for the season. I think last year it was like motorcycles and like motorcycle trips and that whole deal. Super cool. Like it just a complete 180 from what because Two Big Tams was sit down and our
sit down, hit go.
Yeah, whatever gets said on Two Bag Tams is what needs to get said. That was how we approached every episode. And that's why those episodes are what they are.
Chaos.
Complete chaos. Absolutely.
It's the kind of chaos we love, but chaos nonetheless.
Yeah. And so Jonah's off podcasting still. And like I said, this last year was my busiest for wrestling. So I had zero time. And plus having to maintain like quote unquote human job at the same time, like there's just wasn't happening. So yeah, it was for the best. It was sad. We achieved our goal of 100 podcasts. That was what we set out to do from the very first one. But like we said, if we're not going to hit 100, we're not going to do this. So we hit 100. Then we recorded 101 that was the wrap up. That was us saying
a farewell to Kings, so to speak.
Yeah. And it was bittersweet, but it's bittersweet, but it was the right move.
Well, at the very least, like you were saying, it's your busiest year in wrestling. It's not as though you didn't dive wholeheartedly into like every story you were telling, right? Like at the very least, you had the creative outlet outside of, being able to sit down and talk about the various, perhaps not PG talk that may have come about every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's about accurate though. Like Two Big Tams was a great creative outlet. It was basically like a level of talk therapy for Jonah and I, but being so busy with wrestling, having legit goods, like especially with love, real good storylines that I could bite into, like that aspect of like I didn't have necessarily that talk therapy with a buddy, but I had that creative outlet to just dump all my ideas into, and it was just like that worked for me, so it was good.
I was gonna say it's worked out in spades, and obviously even just looking at it, man, like as the promoter for those who may not know, but also just as like a wrestling fan, I think it's pretty cool that like frankly everybody's had who would we want to see wrestle each other, and you talk about a lot of opportunities to put people in a ring with people they might not have. So let's talk even the culmination, I guess, of the first little 3-show story. One of the matches I think you really just showed how goddamn good you are at professional wrestling, for lack of a better way, man. Talk to me about your match with Vaughn Vertigo.
Oh man. That was, I was legitimately nervous because that was kind of like the first opportunity for me with, a quote unquote like name brought in talent. And I'd watched some of his stuff. Obviously he's a very talented individual. He's found a lot of success over in Europe, basically everywhere he goes. So yeah, there was a lot of like, can I hang on a level with a guy that's been all these places? Like, I don't think I'm a terrible wrestler. I know I'm good, but there's levels to this. So it's like, I'm good in my territory. Am I good with guys that have been elsewhere? Am I good outside of my territory kind of thing? And that was a real, like, felt to me like a real out of my comfort zone. And then putting that match together was like, I really loved that match. Putting it together was really easy. It was really good to work with. The match itself, it's a few little hiccups, but that's literally every match you're going to have. The story we told in that match paid off in spades, though. And people who follow me on social media and people who like just talk to me in the spot where we worked, where he goes to punch me with the brass knuckles, I knock him out. And then I put on the brass knuckles and throw that punch. I am still to this day, that is the greatest wrestling punch I've ever thrown in my life. I am never going to not be proud of that.
That's the first time you told me that.
Yeah, like it just perfect. And Gavin's in the perfect spot to catch
God,
that.
he's the best.
Like it looks like I legitimately punched the dude's lights out.
Dude, yeah.
And like it just, and even knocked him out with the punch, got the pin, crowd popped, like it worked gangbusters. And then he still beat me in the end. And then that kicked off like the next section of my story for Love, which it set me off in such a perfect way. Like it just, yeah, I have nothing bad to say. The only actually thing that I have negative, and it's not negative to say about that, is it took me a while to get to a place where I felt like I was, because like when wrestling shut down, I had made the jump into PWA and I was putting on some of my best matches, and it took a while for me to get to where I felt like I was back on that level. Mm-hmm. And that match with Vaughn gave me a huge boost in confidence to help me get to that next level. And it honestly wasn't until the match that I had with Son of Irish, where it was like after that match happened, I was like, okay, yeah, 100% back now. Like there's no, this is it. Like this is, everything's up from here. And yeah, even just telling that story after the match with Vaughn and, we're going to put Jack away because he lost the match and now Pride's going to run the ship, and everything, like just, again, like everything with my bookings with Love last year, you and the booking committee gave me every opportunity to succeed. And I think that I paid that back in spades the whole time. Like it just, that wrestling relationship last year was just one of the perfect symbiotic relationships you could have had, I think.
Worked great, man. Worked real great. I want to ask you about Son of Irish. There's a couple more I want to ask you about, but you mentioned there too, like beating Vaughn, you were very clearly on the Jack side of things, right?
Yeah.
When you were beating, Son of Irish and over even just the last little bit up really until the match with MRB, like it was very much Pride. Did you think it was going to work as well as it did, having sort of the split character and having sort of two real different dichotomies to who you are?
Yeah, I even when I first like started going down the road with this character, like it's more like, even like as Facebook memories pop up and it's like, oh, I can see, oh, this is where I really started to do this.
This is where I cut my hair. I've seen those ones popping up recently.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed the things, and I've seen what I've thrown away and what I've got into, but the year in Love, I think it really helped me get down the road to achieving what I really want to. And we're not quite there, but it's so much closer. And I think it's almost there, where right now, Pride, I want people to hate Pride. Pride's a dick. Pride is Pride. That's the gimmick. And Jack is the lovable, like Jack is the pinky to Pride's brain. And in a perfect world where I want to get this, and I'm not, where I want this to go is to the point where when the crowd sees me as Pride, they hate me. But when I hit that switch and now Jack's out, they're cheering me. And the first time that I really saw that was the scramble match after wrestling MRB, because MRB beat me, saved Jack. Jack was allowed back out. We had the nice hug at the end. We did the MIZFORCE at the end. I was
going to say, don't think I haven't forgotten to bring that.
No, that will forever be wonderful. Both the spot on Raw and the post-match spot, like that, both of those meant so much to me. And so with that, Jack was allowed back out. So that next scramble match, I took that second to be like, hey, everybody, you haven't seen Jack for a while. This is me. I'm going to be wrestling tonight. And the crowd popped.
I saw you.
And
you sort of had to take that second.
For the first time in my career, I got I've always been able to get the fans behind me cheering, but that was the first legitimate Jack chant that I had ever gotten. So I said the words, got the response, but then I got more of a response than I was expecting. So I think you're the one that pointed it out to me, and I looked for it after. It's like, you can see where it's like, I am right on the line where it's like, don't lose character, don't lose character, don't lose character. And I'm so close to falling over. But yeah, so like even that moment was like, I'm doing something right, but like that's the crowd paying it back to me. And it's like, that was so cool to me.
Do you think any of that positive response came from just absolutely yeeting Stu Garvey into the ring the months prior?
Yeah, that probably helped. Poor Darby.
You talk about that moment in like the intro to that match at 9. I don't think I've ever seen you coming that close to just totally breaking as when you got the pop for throwing Stu.
Yeah. Poor Darby.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, so sorry, Garbs. Yeah. We love you so much. That's referee of the year. I should also point out referee Stuart Garvey. The integrity on that individual.
Yeah. I'm quality man.
Quality individual. Quality human, Stu Garvey. Back to it though. I wanted to ask you, because that's that Son of Irish match, like you say, you've sort of had a bit of a series of matches that are like turning points for you. It's worked real well. And I think that Son of Irish match too was just like another step up. Just I remember how excited you were coming to the back after that match.
Yeah. That was one. Everything that we planned hit. Like, first off, my God, is he a talented individual? And
holy shit, hey.
Such a legitimate, like, that moniker, the future of professional wrestling.
Like, that ain't smoke.
If I'm being honest, when he first started using it, I was like, okay, kid, come on. I never said that to him because I was like, you got to do your thing. But my God, that thought, I am so unbelievably wrong.
I get more and more convinced every show.
He grew into that, and he is doing the work. He's doing what he needs to do to be better all the time. And like just the immediate chemistry. Him and I have always worked well together. He was in MPW when I started my training in MPW.
Yeah.
So I've known him since he was like 12 years old. So we've always had chemistry. But that match was kind of like that was the biggest spotlight we've had for a match. And yeah, that night was just special. Everything hit for us. Timing hit for us. The spots, the fans, the everything. And like that whole match, like the planning of it started from a message from me to him. Hey, do you think you could do a shooting star press and me hit the swallowed pride out of that? Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. And it gangbusters, like it worked. And that was no, I can't say that, but like, yeah, everything was just about that match hit the way it was supposed to. And that was kind of like the first one last year for me where it felt less like it was a little more, had more of that indie, like what is seen as the quote unquote indie match where you got these long drawn out spots with a little bit of no selling, but you're like reversal for reversal for reversal for this, for this, for this. And it's like a 10 sequence spot. And I had been doing like a lot more like what I consider for myself basic stuff. But I knew with Irish, like just the chemistry that we had even before that, it was like, okay, now I can try some of my leveled up stuff a little bit more and I'll have the confidence. And it's not that I had no confidence in anyone else, but it's just I had the confidence in me.
Sometimes you need that eye opener
to be able to keep up to him. And I mean that because like I'm talented. I'm not selling myself short, but he is just good. He is just that much better because like I've done a lot with what I've been given. He's just natural at this. This just comes to him. And
it is pretty damn cool, Pride. And I've said this to you a couple of times and pretty well since the first show we did. Like every show, I'll start getting messages from people out of town and people from the States and all this sort of stuff saying, holy shit, I watch this on Twitch. I've got to wrestle this, and this. Yeah. And more often than not, like Son of Irish is brought up, not just once, not just twice, like every freaking show. That kid's nuts good.
Yeah. Yeah. Wrestling is going to, if he makes it in wrestling or if he doesn't make it in wrestling, it's 100% his choice.
Yeah.
Like he'll have, I think just with his talent level and his mind, the kid stays super humble too. Like he is consciously tries to remain humble.
Just kind.
So I think wrestling is just going to be open to him as he gets better and better and better. It's just going to open more and more doors. Like there's a few people backstage, but he's absolutely one. Like, I won't be shocked when we see him on TV one day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like on a regular basis too. Like, I think if he wants to make it in wrestling, he will.
Man, it's so cool. You just see the growth in Edmonton's wrestling scene, and it's certainly always been talented. And we've had this conversation a trillion times, homie. But like, it has never been a lack of talent. I think it's been a lack of not even just a lack of opportunity, but just a lack of accessibility, getting that footage out there, getting it out there in a timely manner. And like, talk about people who have benefited. I really hope that guy goes somewhere. I think you can point to 40 people in this province right now that you could say something similar about, and that this person should go somewhere. You know what I mean? But it's time for the Alberta Indie Dream. Because that really, man, like up until, I mean, we'd talked about this, just to pull the curtain back a little, like we'd talked about this being one of the end destinations, like from the start of LPW, is bringing back that MRB and Jack Pride match. Yeah. Right. How is this one maybe different for you than the previous ones you've had? Because, you know, even looking at what we've been able to do with LPW and the platform we've got, every time you guys have faced off, it's been, you know, again, overused the phrase, but like an Alberta Indie Dream match or a main event or like a real selling point. It's not as though this hasn't been unhyped before, for lack of a better way to put it. So maybe how's this one been different? And we'll talk MIZFORCE stuff later. We can leave that extraneous. But how was it different for you?
Well, for me, so when the inaugural Indie Dream match happened, that came off of a promo I cut in CWC, where like I had been asking the promoters that I was working for at the time, hey, I want to work with MRB. He is seen as the guy. Like, I want that match. Someone give it to me. And I kept getting like wishy-washy responses. I was like, hey, cool. This is our WrestleMania show for the CWC this year. Cool. I help me get my character over. Can I do a promo? Yeah, no problem. Open your match. Perfect.
Wink and a nudge.
And now I'm gonna call out this human being. And I did. Like,
I would assume he had no idea going in.
Zero. I told nobody.
Oh man.
And apparently that's not necessarily something you're supposed to do. But
I've learned that the hard way too.
Like, I worked on shows with him before, and I knew like he's not a douchebag. He's not like, if that would have been the wrong move, the worst I figured I'd have got from him was a message, hey man, you can't do this shit. It never came. And very soon after, people were like, really? Like, people were like, oh, you want to wrestle with? Oh, that'd be such a good match. And then one of the promoters put it together. All I wanted to do was wrestle the guy that was seen as the best so that I could gauge where I'm at. If I can hang with this person, maybe I am in the upper tier. Maybe, maybe the things that people had said and we're still saying about CWC aren't true. Like, we started where we did. We all have talent. We all deserve to be seen. So that was just my thing. I want to be seen wrestling the best and see how I do. So going into the very first one, absolutely nervous. Like, he putting that match together. He's like, hey, what are some of the Jack Pride moves you do? What do you want to try? And it's like deer in a headlights, just like, what?
Double axe handle off the top rope.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of me with my hands over my head waiting to get cut off.
Come on. Through the curtain. Just let me nail my entrance.
But then, like, and so that match, it played out, and I've talked to him after, like, he kind of, like, I don't know, this is my assumption, he never said this, but like, I assume he kind of wanted to push me because I did call him out, because it was like a non-typical way to bring a match together, like, kind of like, okay, call me out, let's see what you can do.
Yeah,
because he did say that he did try and push me, and I felt I hung in there pretty decently, so I felt good after that. And then the promoter was like, okay, well, let's do a series of these. So we did a few more, and they got easier. Him and I just have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
And the last time we had wrestled was the very last CWC. No, I think it was CWC/RCW branded show. But anyways, we wrestled there in Festival Hall. And again, it was just So good. Like he's even said to me, like, that's one of his, like, it's on the list when he thinks of favorite matches, that match is on there. He's always like, we have a really good chemistry, but we hadn't worked for a few years together. Like, we'd done like involvement in tag matches.
I was gonna say like rumble spots and your little stuff like that.
Yeah, but no straight up one-on-one. And so coming into the one for love for the grand championship, the nerves weren't there out of me. It was a little like I still like yielded to him a little bit putting it together. He got such an amazing mind for that. Like, I think I'd be a little silly not to.
I was gonna say you take from the best when you can.
Absolutely. But kind of the plan out of the start with how we had booked into it, the promos leading into it, all of that stuff. It was a very different vibe going into things, and it was easily the grittiest match. Him and I, like, all the other ones had indie, like that quote unquote indie-rific feel to them. We were doing high spots, doing all the things, but that one, like, it was a conscious decision because everybody I talked to backstage, what are these guys going to do? Like, oh, it's going to be so crazy. And we didn't do it to not, like, we didn't do the match the way we did as a way to like, oh, you guys want that? We're not giving it to you. But like, for me, I was very okay going that grittier way because, okay, everyone's seen us do like the indie-rific sort of thing, but like, we can do other styles of things. So it was very, like, a lot grittier. Like, it was a fight.
It was crazy in a different way.
Yeah. Like, we were both like super aggressive in it and throwing a lot of shots. Like, and we certainly weren't holding back. Neither of us were. And it was a lot of fun. And we still had a couple like really good high spots out of the whole deal. But it was like, the mindset was, let's just go out there and we've got good chemistry. Let's beat the shit out of each other and see what happens. And it was great.
Lo and behold.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's guys that you'll go out there and they'll hit you, like, they'll give you a good shot. And it's like, oh man, like, piss off. Like, you don't gotta kill me. When I'm in there with MRB, for whatever reason, and it's like, cool, now I'll give you one back. And it's just like, you feed off that with certain people, and him and I have such like a good working relationship and good chemistry that's just like, yeah, let's just beat each other up and see what happens. And it was, yeah.
Just the best kind of professional wrestling, if you ask me.
Yes.
Hit hard, no receipts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it, man. Now, at the end of that match, and we've talked a little bit about it, but at the end of that match, there was the MIZFORCE spot, so to speak, which I loved, but we need the backstory for it. This was your first time doing anything with WWE, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd never, first time with any like major sort of company that I was, like.
Set the stage. So Monday Night Raw is coming to Edmonton, Alberta. When do you find out, like, hey, I'm potentially going to be a part of this? Here's what I'm doing. Like, what's the procedure? Because obviously, and I don't need to tell you, I have never done any work for WWE before.
So I didn't realize that they were like gonna be in town. And at that point in like when it was first announced and when kind of people were first sending their feelers out, like, oh, you're going to be in town if you need extra work. Like, I'd never done any of that stuff. I didn't know the procedure, and admittedly, and it's not the greatest mindset, but if something's too complicated, I'll avoid it. And I was like, that seemed really complicated. So maybe not for me.
So I don't do my own taxes, man.
Absolutely. So I kind of let it be. But then I'd had very, very close, like the weekend before. So like a couple of days before, I was at training at the Clandestine Wrestling Society. And MRB had asked, like, hey, he was already, like, he had sent in all the everything. Zoe had, I forget who else had, a few other people had sent in all their stuff. Crow had sent his stuff in. So they were already in. And MRB got told, hey, turns out we're going to need some more extras. Do you know anybody? And I happened to be at training that day. And he's like, hey, I got this information. do you want to do this? Can you do this? So I immediately phoned my human job boss and was like, hey, got this real cool potential. Yeah, absolutely. Go do that. Don't worry about work. And that's honestly, and then I sent a couple emails with some information to the people involved at the WWE. And like, perfect. Sent me all the information. This is when you got to be here. This is kind of the initial shakedown. And there I was backstage at WWE. Super cool. Like, we were, so you're backstage and they take you to where the, like the extras talent go. Like we had our own spots. There's a few guys from like across the country that were in there, plus most of the local guys were all hanging out. Somebody came and was like, hey, getting to the point where we're going to decide what spots we need you guys to do. Can you come check in with medical? Now for me, because I did get involved very last minute, I hadn't done the medical required, the beforehand stuff, which disqualified me from doing any like physical,
security, anything like that.
So then like, yeah, you can do only non-physical spots. So like, perfect, we have a spot for that, so we'll get you in on that. And so like Mo was one of the ones that ended up getting pulled. He got to do that match with Almas. Super cool. But yeah, so they pulled few of like MRB, Crow, a few other guys. Bobby Schenk was there. I should
say that's the first time afterwards I went out with a few of the roster. And we went out for drinks afterwards, and I did not expect to meet Bobby Schenk for the first time
wild.
At the Canadian Brew House on 109.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, he's a wonderful dude.
Great human being.
Absolutely.
Great human being.
Tallest member of the MIZFORCE.
I was gonna say
by like a long ways.
I gotta be honest, that's how I immediately recognized it was him when y'all
that tall guy in the back.
It's almost my favorite part of all of those too, is like you see the little pockets of like the Edmonton wrestling community.
Yeah.
Like Mo was the same thing, and you guys are the same thing on the screen, is you see like 4 or 5 people in every section that are just doing the Leo DiCaprio. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So then they pulled us aside, and because the nature of the spot was stand there, run off as everyone saw, and then the next spot was us all taken out. Loomis didn't physically beat us up. That's why I was okay to do that spot.
You're supposed to spoiler warnings before.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. Some of this is scripted sometimes.
I'm going to watch this on my YouTube analytics and just watch the drop-off after.
He's ruined it. He's ruined it. He is the first one.
Business is dead, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, and other little tidbit within that spot. Most people that know me, Chris Jericho is and always has been my guy. Like it just like from the first time I saw Jericho in WCW, that's it. That's the guy. And followed him his whole career, and he's always number one. But they very as close as another wrestler could be. My number 2 is The Miz.
Yeah.
So when they pulled, I didn't hear, at least they might have told us, I didn't hear out of the gates that we were going to be doing the spot with The Miz. They're just like, yeah, we've got you guys for security if you want to come this way. And we're all kind of so hanging out with MRB and Crow. And then we hear somebody, I don't know who said it. I don't know. All I heard was, yeah, so when The Miz gets here or something along those lines. And immediately I was, what? And I turned to Crow and I was like, oh my, did he just say did he say The Miz? The Miz is going to be here? And I'm just having this like, I was like, Steven, I just need to get all of this stuff out to you right now. So when he shows up, I'm not good. A complete mark. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then he showed up and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's The Miz. Stay in character because you're security right now. You gotta be cool. Did the spot. Oh my God, that was so cool. We did the spot. They're like, he is beyond professional backstage, like going over his, like they gave him like, this is the angle we want you to take. These are kind of the lines. And he's like, he was running his lines just to himself. And he'd be like, hey, how do you guys feel? I think if I change this, and they were cool working with him to change the lines to fit him a little bit better. He filmed it. And there was the one take that like they had done, and he's like, no, that's not it. He's very super professional.
Meticulous, yeah.
And like I appreciate that, because people that have worked with me on promo type things, and
You put a lot of weight on them, to say the least.
yes, Kayla is one, and she can attest to, I can be a pain in the ass to work with because I can be so meticulous with things. And so to see him being that way is like, okay, I feel less bad that I can be that way because he's like that. And then we did the spot, everyone liked it, and he came around and he shook all of our hand, like all the scary guys. Hey, thanks for that, guys. Hey, thanks for that. And like, it's just like an in-passing thing. But the fact that this clear megastar on TV just came up to me, which all in all in that spot, a relative nobody, shook my hand and said, thanks for the spot, I appreciate it. And then and then even after the fact, he like rounded us all up. Hey, I want to do a TikTok and have all you guys there. So then we got to also be on the Miz's TikTok because he thought it was cool. So, and yeah, just solid dude, very professional, very meticulous, but like still not completely full of himself, like just a very confident in his abilities person.
Yeah, it's all the stuff you wouldn't notice if he didn't do, and the stuff that you certainly noticed because he did do.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll close her out with this one. Well, we'll close her out with two more, but of course I do have to ask and give as much as you need. This is also going to be coming out before Love Pro Wrestling 11, the blue event, just to give you some context here.
Okay.
You won 3 awards this year, my friend. Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year, and Moment of the Year. One of the closing moments of LPWX, Appetite for Wrestling, was Marz the Specialist, who's gone through some tag team partners, some friends lately, to use his phrase with it, aligning with you and TJ Cannon, purportedly. So
yes.
Let's just talk about maybe how that relationship started, because I know you brought up, going out to Winnipeg with those guys and everything in between. But what specifically drew you to TJ and Marz?
So when I came back, my first singles match back was with Marz the Specialist.
Heck of a way to come back.
Yeah. So here's a little just tidbit that goes along with that. I was told by the promoter of that company, my first 2 matches back, Marz the Specialist in Calgary and Heavy Metal in Edmonton. And I was told by the promoter of that company, if you can't work with these 2, you can't work and you don't deserve to be booked. Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah, like, thanks for the vote of confidence. Pretty sure I've seen you wrestle and you couldn't wrestle with either of them, but that's beside the point.
Hey, that goes for me too.
Yeah.
I'd be a terrible wrestling promoter.
Yeah.
I'd be a terrible promoter who wrestles. I'd be
Yeah.
a terrible wrestling promoter who's probably a clip that's going to get sent out.
Oh yeah, that's
I'm going to see that on Twitter like 4 months. Congratulations, Spencer. You played yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, so my first match back was with Marz, and then and immediately I was like, oh, like it was again one of those, like, I know I'm good. Like it was a good match back for me because Marz is talented as all hell. And so he was able to carry me. Like, we put stuff together. I'm not selling myself short, but first singles match back in 2 years.
Like, anybody who's going to have a tough time getting back in.
Yeah, so he carried me enough that I didn't look completely rusty. And the same thing went the next night with Metal. Like, kudos to both of them. They helped make me look good. And yeah, like, and then it just turned into, because Marz and TJ were down in Calgary, and anytime they're coming up to Edmonton, I would just jump in with them. So I was riding with them all the time. Got to know them a lot. And actually the one PWA show, we did the Saddle Dome this year, and Marz and I were on the same team. There was a Survivor
like the 5-on-5
style,
right?
Yeah, the elimination match, but the winners got I forget what they called it, but we got a cup. And they're like, yeah, we want everybody to sign this thing, kind of like the way they engrave names on the Stanley Cup, get everybody to sign it, and then the next set of winners, they'll sign it. And that was kind of the gimmick that we were presented with. So everybody on the team, we all signed it. Now, the cup, maybe about the size of the microphone, like The bowl is kind of here. The little stand is about there. Not huge. So everybody,
So who decided to sign their name real big?
so everyone signs their name, a decent size, like, hey, somebody else might want to do this. But Mr. Marz, the specialist, signed like half of that fucking thing. Marz. And 10 out of 10 won't let him live that down ever.
Oh no, he's gonna hear about that in 3 weeks time.
Absolutely. And and then so traveling with him and TJ all the time. TJ's one. I see a lot of my early self in TJ. So I just like some of the struggles he's had, some of the successes he's had. It's like that looks very similar to places I've been, like in my career. So just seeing that, like I got a special place in my heart for TJ. I just so like immediately I was just like, this kid's like, and he's another one. Like I'm drawn to through most things, but like especially wrestling, people who want to get better. Like I'm doing this thing. There is a professional aspect to it. I want to improve. Yeah. TJ was one of the only people last year, but he did. And he's like, hey man, we had some matches together. Can you do you want to go over them and send me feedback? And I love when guys do that because I love watching wrestling to analyze it. Yeah. It's hard for me to watch wrestling as a fan. I'm always super critical. Yeah. But him asking me specifically, like I remember early in my career getting out of my comfort zone to be like, hey, we just wrestled. Could you watch the match and give me feedback so I can get better? Yeah. Like I find for me, that's the easiest way to improve outside of just drilling stuff over and over and over. Yeah. When he took the time to ask that, I was like, okay, this guy wants to get better. This guy wants to improve. He's not just doing this to do this like some people. And I'm not shitting on those guys. That's one way to wrestle. I'm drawn to people who want to excel. And the second he did that, I was just like, yeah, this is somebody I want to be around. And so, and him and Marz are both like, they're super good friends. Another guy I'm super good friends with, Stephen Crow. They're all good buddies. It's like, we just kind of like, because I'm from Red Deer and I live in Red Deer, I've found the last year I just kind of glommed on and became real good friends with the Calgary car. Yeah. And it just, like I said, we drove out, TJ came out with me. We did BC. I went with TJ and Marz. We did Winnipeg. Last year, there's nobody I've spent more time with than those two. So naturally, who would I want to surround myself in the wrestling ring than those two? And fun fact, unfortunately, I checked my ringside or my cage match, from last year. I think I had 5 or 6 singles matches with Marz. Motherfucker beat me every single time. Can't get a win to save my life.
Maybe eventually, but it won't be this year. It won't be this year, at least not with Marz Pride. I'm going to shoot straight with you, as they so say. We've got about 4% battery left here on my computer, and I'm not going to stand up and awkwardly plug her in here. We're just going to close her out. I don't know what your other dates are as far as it goes, but January 27th, yes. The Rec Room South Edmonton. You're going one-on-one for the first time with Travis Williams. Yeah, that's going to be a friggin' hoot, man. I'm so excited. But people want to keep up to date with you prior to that, during that, after that, anywhere in between. Where can they do so? How can they do so? Trying
to think. The 14th of this month, I'm out for, it's a Saturday, whatever the Saturday that weekend. I'm out for Can-Am in Calgary. And then the next weekend, I can't remember. I think it's the Friday. It's Innisfail. And then the Saturday is Calgary, both for Can-Am again. Then the 26th, the debut of Big Vision Wrestling. TJ and I will be tagging up to take on the State of Emergency.
Fuck, I love SOE.
Pretty excited for that match. But admittedly, I am the most excited for the singles with Travis Williams. He's a huge standout in BC and all around good dude. I like hanging out with him backstage.
Unfortunately, there's a match to worry about winning.
Right. Unfortunately, gonna have to stomp his face into the mat, but we're
cool other than that.
Yeah, we'll be good before and after that, but unfortunately, that's how it's gonna have to go. seen some people already, and I hope we can live up to this. Start the year off with the match of the year candidate, and I'm not going to say it's not going to be that. I'm not going to say it is going to be that, but
that's what you're trying to live up to.
That's the aim, yeah. So hopefully, I think we can do it.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, thanks for the time, friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been good. This has been a nice way to kick off the interviewing year for old Spencer Love. And if you, friends, want to stay up to date with the rest of the interviewing year from not just Spencer Love, but everybody else here, follow Love Wrestling wherever podcasts are played, videos are viewed, or awesome content is created by awesome people at Love Wrestling CA. Pick up your tickets on Eventbrite for LPW 11, the Blue event taking place January 27th at the Rec Room South Edmonton. Or if you want to get into each and every event that we're taking over YEG with, pick up some season tickets. Everybody's doing it. You save some money, and you make sure that you're checking out at least 11 events featuring the best of the best in Canadian pro wrestling. For the man of two minds, I've been Spencer Love. I'll continue to be Spencer Love, but that's not how you close out an interview. I just don't think.
Jack off.
Thank you.